IT, I believe I have to actually check
Hang on.
with you that you
Hang on.
confirm.
Chair.
1 second.
Sure.
Yeah, you're now live, Chair.
Thank you very much. Welcome to this virtual Letchworth Area Committee meeting that's being conducted with members and officers at various locations, communicating by audio, video and online. There's also the opportunity for the public and press to listen and view proceedings. Before the meeting starts, I would like to invite the committee member and scrutiny officer, Anna Govea, to explain how proceedings will work and confirm that members, officers and registered speakers are in attendance. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Chair. I'll firstly undertake the roll call. When I call your name, please can you indicate your attendance to confirm that the required members, officers and registered speakers are present and can hear and be heard. Councillor Gary Grindle has given his apologies. Councillor Helen Oliver.
Present.
Councillor Daniel Allen.
Present.
Councillor Kate Aspinwall.
She has sent apologies, Anna.
Sorry, apologies, thank you. Councillor Morgan Derbyshire.
Present.
Councillor Terry Hone.
Present.
Councillor David Levitt.
Present.
Councillor Ian Mantle.
Yeah, present.
We've had apologies from Councillor Prendergast. Councillor Sue Nguala.
Present.
Councillor Mike Rice.
Present.
And Councillor Adam Ruggiero Chaka.
Present.
Thank you. And officers, we have apologies from Lee Ellis. Claire Morgan.
Present.
Thank you. Simon Ellis.
Present.
Hilary Dineen.
Present.
And myself, and thank you to Vic Godfrey for assisting with IT this evening. Speakers, we have Jackie Hare from 7th Letchworth Scouts.
Present.
Nigel Carrick, the settlement. Is Nigel here?
He keeps dropping in and out at the moment, Anna.
Okay. Lynn Meisner, Small Acts of Kindness.
Present.
Cava Johnson, Letchworth African Caribbean Community.
Yes, I'm here.
Julia Sananda, Letchworth Safe Cycling and Walking Network.
Yeah, present.
Chris Wilson, Town Centre Manager.
Present.
And have I missed anyone? We have John Webb, also from the Letchworth Safe Cycling and Walking Network. Could you just unmute yourself for one moment to say, so we can hear you? Thank you. Okay, I'll move on to explain proceedings for this evening's meeting. This meeting is being streamed live on the Council's YouTube channel and also recorded via Zoom. If live streaming fails, the meeting will adjourn. If the live stream cannot be restored within a reasonable period, then the remaining business will be considered at a later date. Please stay in view of the camera at all times. If for any reason the meeting is not quorate, an officer will notify attendees by interjecting the meeting. The meeting will adjourn immediately. Once the meeting is quorate, the meeting will resume. If connection cannot be restored within a reasonable period, then the remaining business will be considered at a later date. If a remote member loses connection, the chair may adjourn the meeting for a short period to enable connection to be re-established. If the chair does not adjourn the meeting, the member will be deemed to have left the meeting at the point of failure and be deemed to have returned at the point of re-establishment. Only members present for the entirety of debate and consideration of an item are entitled to vote. Please ensure that your mobile phone and other noise-emitting devices are muted. Please activate the mute button on your tablet or computer when you're not speaking. Please be mindful that others can see you. If a member wishes to speak, they should use the raise hand button. When requested to vote, voting will be via the green tick for yes, red cross for no, and blue raise hand for abstain, which are located in the participants section at the bottom of the screen. Are there any questions before we start the meeting? No, thank you. I'll hand over to the Vice Chair, Councillor Helen Oliver, to chair the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. As Anna mentioned, we've heard apologies for absence from Councillor Aspinwall, Councillor Prendergast and Lee Ellis, Community Engagement Officer, and also the chair of the committee, Councillor Gary Grindle. And I was thinking that it would be good for the meeting, the councillors in the meeting, to send our best wishes to Councillor Grindle, who is recovering at home from surgery. I've had no other notifications of business and any other business, and no other apologies. Welcome to those who are speaking under public participation. It's really nice to have you with us this evening. In accordance with council policy, this meeting is being audio recorded as well as filmed. The audio recordings will be available to view on mug.gov and the film recording via the NHDC web channel, YouTube channel. Members are reminded to make declarations of interest before an item. The detailed reminder about this and speaking rights is set out under the chair's announcements on the agenda. We have a number of speakers this evening, as has been alluded to. The 7th Letchworth Scouts, thank you. We have Jackie Hare. Good evening, Jackie. Nigel Carrick from the Settlement. Lynn Meisner from Small Acts of Kindness. Cava Johnson from Letchworth African Caribbean Community, and Julia Sananda and John Webb from Letchworth Safe Cycling and Walking Network. We have 2 grant applications this evening. Jackie Hare from 7th Letchworth Scouts. Can I please start with you and ask that you address the committee, please, regarding your grant application? But Councillor Allen, I think you wanted.
I did, thank you very much. I just want to declare that I cannot vote in this one as I have children that attend that scout group. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Over to you, Jackie.
Okay, so firstly, it's a thank you for inviting me to speak to you. As you know, my name's Jackie Hare and I'm the Group Scout Leader from 7th Letchworth Scouts. Group Scout Leader is just like the manager, the overall picture holder, the link between the committee and the leaders. 7th Letchworth Scouts is based in Bedford Road, and we have 56 children, primarily from the Wilbury estate. It's a long-standing group. We've recently celebrated our 75th anniversary and highly regarded in the district. I'm making an application to help pay for our forthcoming census fee. It's an annual census fee, and I'm applying under your category of building a thriving and resilient community. The annual fee is approximately £58 per person, per young person. We don't pay for the adults. Last year it was 54 and we're expecting a small increase. This money is collected by the Central National Scouting Association and helps pay for training, campsites, insurance and support, and a few permanent staff that are within the Scouting Association. The district collects the census money and it's helped pay for our DHQ, minibus, international expeditions and district expeditions. So we collect money that's to pay for this census, and we spend money on our hall and storage, leader support and uniform, and of course the most important bit is funding weekly activities for the young people. We set a budget of this at just £9 per young person per term, and we can offer a good range, a good solid programme with this money. So I'm applying for a grant to help us pay for this census money, and we've got ourselves into a bit of a financial pickle, mainly because the bank balance was allowed to reduce to just about £300. But we get a lot of money, or we have in the past, from gift aid. With the lower numbers, our gift aid has reduced, but that's also added, coupled with the fact that we've, as a committee, we've been reluctant to increase the subs because of the fact that our catchment area is the Wilbury estate. And so with lower numbers, lower gift aid, inability to raise the money, well, that's it. The fundraising opportunities have been reduced over the last year. So normally, I'm sure you're aware, scouting is really quite high profile when it comes to fundraising, but we've been unable, for all the COVID reasons, to get out there and spread the word that we wanted to raise some money. But we have been able to raise the subs starting this term and find somebody to maintain the gift aid application for us. So we've done what we can, or feel that we can, to help the situation. But I'm wanting to ask for £760 to cover the deficit and maintain weekly activities while our bank balance recovers over the next year. And I thank you for considering this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jackie. Members, does anyone have any questions for Jackie? I can't see any hands. Am I missing anyone? Nobody's waving at me.
Can't see any hands, Chair.
Okay, that's just really unusual. Jackie, thank you very much for making your presentation. I have to say, normally I have a question, but it feels like you did include all of the pertinent information that we needed. So I'm going to take that as a sign of a really good presentation, and
Thank
not
you
the
very
fact that the members haven't been able to think of anything to ask you. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, or you can leave if you'd wish to, because community engagement, Lee or Claire, will get back to you with the decision on the grant. It's entirely up to you. We will be deciding just up after the next speaker, but it's up to you.
Okay. I'd like to stay and listen to the next speaker, but then I will go.
Smashing. Thank you very much. Okay, Nigel Carrick from the settlement is next. We look forward to you addressing the committee regarding your application. Thank you.
I think you need to unmute yourself, Mr. Carrick.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello.
We can hear you now. Thank you.
Yeah. So I've been associated with the settlement for the last 18 years, serving on the management committee for a period, but left it a couple of years ago. And when I heard that the settlement was due to be closed, I thought that I could raise some money to keep it open, and started a fundraising exercise, and the donations rolled in. So when we reached 70,000, a new committee was formed, and we started talking about opening up the settlement. The cost of running the settlement for a year is around £150,000, and that excludes the cost of tutors. So our turnover is over £250,000 a year. If we raised 150,000, we would be able to survive for 18 months with some income coming in. And I'm pleased to say that I think we've hit our target, because if I heard it correctly, the Civic Trust have given us a grant. So we have raised 110,000 from members with gift aid, and we've received receiving 25,000 from English Heritage, the Cultural Recovery Fund, which we heard about the other day, and I believe the Civic Trust is going to help us. So that is a basic thing. I know it's quite a lot of money, but it's sort of basic income to keep us running. Because although we started running courses, we've got limited hirings going. The dance school, for instance, is back. But with the COVID restrictions, class sizes have to be limited. And at the moment, our classes are covering the tutor fees plus a small surplus. We're running some online courses, and we're looking at how we can run courses that are part on Zoom and part at the settlement. And it might be in such a way that 1 week, 6 people are at the settlement, next week they're on Zoom, and the people who are on Zoom come to the settlement for that week. Or we run a course and we just people on Zoom at a reduced fee for the whole of the course. So we're looking at all sorts of ways of how we can continue to provide the educational activities that we've been running for 100 years now. We have a new committee which is very diverse in expertise and age. We run from 30 to nearly 80 myself, and we have tremendous experience and expertise to keep us going for the next 18 months. So having the basic financial security, we're now looking for some grant money to help us buy equipment, digital equipment, such as laptops, microphones, screens, etc., so that we can expand the Zoom side of the way we present our courses. And this is why we've come to you to see whether you would be able to help us. We've budgeted just under 5,000 for this, and we're hoping that perhaps you can give us a grant of £2,000 towards this budget for our digital equipment. Thank you. Hello?
Yeah, thank you very much, Nigel. I appreciate your presentation. At this point, I'm going to ask if members have any questions. I'm still not seeing. I've got one raised hand. Councillor Nguala.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say to Mr. Carrick, how well done in raising all of that money. That's fantastic, an amount of money. So, and I'm very pleased to hear that the settlement will be opening again. So that's brilliant news. You say you're already up and running in some areas.
Yes, we are up and running. And I mean, the members have been tremendous. We've had donations from £5 to £9,000.
Wow.
So, you know, it is a cherished institution.
Of course it is.
And the English heritage have come up trumps as well.
That's
and
excellent news.
I think the Civic Trust have as well, if I hear correctly from a councillor tonight.
Okay, so but just under £5,000 for some computer equipment doesn't seem very much, really. What are you hoping to buy with it?
Well, I mean, laptops and microphones and screens and so on. They're not, you know, you can get quite a lot for the that's what we budgeted. That's what we think we need over the next period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, from our donations, we're providing the 3,000 or nearly 3,000 of it, and we would hopefully get 2,000 from yourselves. And we will be looking at other things where perhaps we need further grants. And, you know, there's a number of organizations beginning to talk about supporting institutions that have got themselves running again and want to continue. So, you know, we're very, very hopeful that we're financially stable, because I know nobody wants to give money to an organization that will fold up 6 months later.
No, that's very true. Well done. I think that's great and really good news. So thank you. Thank you for coming to talk to us.
Right.
Thank you, Councillor Nguala. I now have Councillor Levitt.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, Nigel, congratulations on saving a settlement. I think that's absolutely brilliant. You've managed to keep it going, because I know how much it is used and how many people do appreciate it. Tell me, and at some point as well, you had issues with the lease as well. Did you manage to sort that? Is that secure now? You're secure in your home now?
Yeah, we have a 50-year lease on the building. We are, I mean, part of the 150,000 cost is that we fully maintain the outside and the inside. And in the next 12 months, we've got to redecorate the outside of the building within the terms of our lease. And there are certain parts of it that do need redecoration very urgently. So that is part of the grant that we got from English Heritage to help us maintain the outside of the building.
Yeah,
but we have a 50-year lease.
Yeah, so it might be worth an appeal to any building companies or decorating companies locally to
give us a good price. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, and thanks, Councillor Levitt. And Councillor Rice, am I right in thinking you were signalling you had a question?
Yes, that's quite correct.
I saw your actual hand rather than your little blue digital one.
Yes, congratulations to the settlement. I, along with Councillor Daniel Allen, I'm not sure if Councillor Ian Mantle also sit on the Civic Trust.
He's waving yes.
Yeah. And I just want to thank Councillor Allen, who had a meeting with the with the management committee. I don't know whether you were part of that, Nigel, to establish whether the Civic Trust were going to give money. And thanks to his report, the Civic Trust, as you quite rightly say, are. So I'm quite happy, as Councillor Daniel Allen is convinced that the management committee is stable, that the plans are good, that I will fully support the grant that you're asking for.
Right, thank you very much.
I'm trying to speak to you when I'm muted. Luckily, my computer told me. I haven't got any more hands up, so in the absence of anybody actually waving at me as well. Thank you very much, Nigel. You are also welcome to stay. We'll be considering the decisions for the grant applications now, but you are also very welcome to leave if you'd rather, and Claire or Lee will be in touch with you after the meeting.
Okay, I'll stay for a while. Thank you.
Thank you. Claire, I believe I'm handing to you at this point to present the grant application.
Thank you, Chair. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah, good. I thought I'd just start off with quickly going through the financial situation so you know how much money you've got to spend before you decide whether you want to spend this or not. At the moment, you have £10,860 left in the budget to spend. The grants this evening add up to 2,760. That will leave you with, if you decide to grant both of those, it leaves you with 8,100 for the next 2 meetings. So you've got another meeting in December and one in March before the end of this financial year. So you're in a good financial situation at the moment. I'll go on to just remind you of the grants, although they're all fresh in your mind. So we have the settlement. Obviously, you've done loads, such a well-used facility in the community, and everyone was devastated when we thought we might lose it from Letchworth. And obviously, Nigel and the team there have done such a lot of work to keep it going. So they're requesting the £2,000 for the computer equipment. And I think the other wonderful thing about the settlement is that they're now looking at other ways of working, as we all are, obviously. But I think at this particular time in history, it's really important that everybody moves quickly with the times, not to get held back. And if you don't continue to sort of be able to do things online and offer the public and the community different ways to engage, including getting involved in a virtual way and doing courses online, then it's just never going to work. It's going to go down the pan. So I think this is really important to support this and encourage the settlement to diversify in the way that they can provide education to people. Do you want to take that to a vote, Chair? And then I'll do the next one.
Yes, please. If we could have, sorry, Claire, you've done them in reverse order than they are on my agenda. But to be clear, we're taking the vote on the settlement first.
Yeah,
right?
sorry, I've done them in the order there in the report.
Okay. Good. So in reverse order than they were on your agenda, could we now take the vote on the settlement grant application, please? Voting in the usual way, and Anna will count and manage the vote.
Chair, Councillor. Oh, that's all right. Don't mind.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Like
Yeah,
Councillor
members, please.
To speak, but I think he was voting.
Could members,
No,
please. Sorry,
I've got a few heads shaking at me. Can I just ask, is anyone raising their hand to speak at the moment? Councillor Derbyshire. Morgan, yes.
Does this not have to be proposed and seconded before we take the vote?
Oh, well, yes. Normally that's how we do it when we do it in
That's
real
absolutely
life.
right. Yes.
I'm happy to propose.
Thank you very much, Morgan. Would
I'm
someone
happy
else
to
from the meeting
second.
like to? Thank you very much, Ian. So now we can move to the vote, voting in the usual way. Oh, sorry, Councillor Allen. Daniel, you're still shaking your head at me. This is exactly as we're scripted. What's missing?
I believe there's meant to be debate and any suggestions that would come forward.
Have we got any more questions before we go to the vote? And I had no hands up.
Councillor Holmes still got his hand up.
You've got Terry Hone's hand up, and you've got Daniel Allen's hand up.
I'm really sorry that they popped up after I'd said, shall we move to the vote? I most certainly am happy to listen to questions. Please do go ahead. So the first hands then would be Councillor Hone, followed by you, Councillor Allen.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Finally got to me. I noticed on your report, or report officers put forward for this event, that in fact they're £600 short. We're getting them 2,000. They've raised 2,260, so they're £600 short in their looking for the number they're looking for. Am I right in assuming that, officers?
Claire, is that correct?
811 of a grant application.
Yes, hang on. I'm just doing quick mental arithmetic, which is difficult. So the total cost of the project is 4,860. They've raised 2,260. Is Nigel, are you able to answer that? You're the...
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You can, Nigel, thank you.
Yeah. Basically, it was my error in filling in the form that the donation should have been higher than what I state in there. It should have been at 2,800.
So you don't have a short. You won't have a shortfall if you get the 2,000.
We won't have a shortfall. It's if I can find it, the total says 2,860, but the actual line says personal donations from users 2,260. I did clear it with Leah during her sort of queries with me.
That's fine. I imagine Councillor Hone was just trying to make sure you had no shortfall.
Exactly right.
No shortfall.
Because if they said there was a shortfall, I might have done something to make up that shortfall. But as there is no shortfall, then so be it. I'll vote accordingly. Thank you.
That's excellent news. Thank you for checking, Terry. Daniel, I think you also had a question.
I was going to be saying exactly the same as Terry, except that I couldn't offer any extra money, but I wanted to point out the discrepancy.
You could have proposed to us that we awarded a higher grant application, and I'm sure that somebody in the group would have done. Thank you very much for clarifying that you don't have a shortfall. That's excellent news. Am I right in thinking that there are no other hands? Right, can't always see everybody's hands all at once on participants. I've had a good spool down. I don't think I've got any more hands up now. Am I safe to move to the vote? Excellent. I'm moving to the vote. If you could vote in the usual way, Anna will manage the vote and count it up and let us know.
Thank you, Chair. Please vote in the usual way with a green tick for yes, red cross for no, and blue raised hand for abstain. That's clearly carried, Chair.
Thank you very much, Anna.
Thank you. So I move on
Claire.
to the Scouts. 7th Letchworth Scouts meet in the Wilbury Hall on Bedford Road behind St Thomas's Church. As Councillor Oliver said, their presentation was completely clear about why they need the money and what they're going to do with it. I don't think I've really got anything to add to that unless anybody wants to ask any questions on the figures or anything in the report.
Okay, checking and double checking. We're doing this slightly differently with Claire presenting the information. So to be clear, even if I don't repeat it, now is your time, councillors, to ask questions. No hands raised. Thank you. Then can we have the vote on the 7th Letchworth Scouts, please? And Anna will count and
You need a proposer and a seconder.
Ah, sorry. Yeah. Can I please have someone to propose the grant application, please?
Pleased to propose, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rice.
Please to second.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hone. And we can move to the vote. Can anyone tell it's been a lot of months since I've done this?
Thank you. Please all vote with the green tick for yes, as you know, red cross for no, and blue raised hand for abstain. That's carried, Chair.
Thank you very much, Anna. And I think both of our applicants are still with us. So you should both know that their applications have been successful. Thank you. We'll now hear from the speakers. And next on my agenda, I have Lynn Meisner from Small Acts of Kindness. Lynn, would you like to address the committee?
Thank you very much, Councillor Oliver. As you say, I'm Lynn Meisner. I'm the Chief Executive of Small Acts of Kindness. And although it's a strange way to be meeting you all, it's very nice to see you all. And hopefully the next time we're together, we'll be actually there in person. I wanted to just give you an overview of the activity that has taken place with the funding that you very kindly awarded us last year. Small Acts of Kindness warm in winter gift bags contain essential keep warm items and a wealth of resources about activities and services for older people. Thanks to the kind funding from the Letchworth Area Committee last year and other funders, both locally and across the county, we were able to distribute over 600 of our warm in winter gift bags across the Letchworth area from October 2019 onwards. Each bag is valued at £25. Organisations whose clients benefited from these gifts included Hills, the Howard Garden Centre, Age UK Hertfordshire, Hertfordshire Fire and Rescue Service, and we also distributed over 100 bags via the Library Service Slipper Swap, Hertfordshire County Council's chatter tables, and a monthly pop-up meet and cup of tea in the cafe at Sainsbury's in Letchworth. From the feedback cards that we received that are included in every gift bag that we give out, we can report that the average age of recipients of these bags was 82, and that 65% of recipients were female, and the remainder were male. Over 50% of respondents replied that they had a disability. We received 67 feedback cards from the Letchworth area postcodes, which is in line with our average response for feedback of 10% of bags distributed, something which is quite a lot higher than the normal response you'd get from that sort of request for information. I think the best insight always into the impact of these gifts is from the recipients themselves. And obviously I can't bring them here to be with you this evening, but what I do have is a very small snapshot of some of the replies that we received from Letchworth residents. They told us this: I thought that the gifts were so practical and well thought out, but when you get down to basics, whether you're rich or poor, the real killer is the well-documented lack of transport and loneliness. Thank you so much for your care and your kindness. Another recipient told us, your gift made me feel brilliant, better than a birthday. And the best part about it was that although you've lost all your friends and family, someone still cares about you. And the final one tells us, very happy to know that other people care, and the gifts will be very useful to me to keep me warm over the winter months. We'd like to extend a huge thank you for your support in the past and your continued support for our work. And what I would like to say, seeing as I've got so many councillors in one place at the same time, is that if you know of any older people in your district who might benefit from receiving one of these bags, please do reach out. And likewise, if you know about any groups or activities that take place, you probably know far more about your local area than we would ever do. So please do reach out and let me know. And we certainly have bags that are available. We're packing them at the moment and we've already packed 4,000. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lynn. Members, does anyone have any questions for Lynn? Yes, I've got Councillor Nguala.
Thank you, Chair. Very nice to see you, Lynn, and I'm so glad that you're up and running again in this area this year. Really good. I just wondered, last year you were looking for premises to store some of your goods that are donated so that you didn't have to trek up and down the motorway or the A1 with stuff from Watford. Was it Watford or Hemel?
Watford.
How have you managed this year?
So you're right, and had COVID not come our way, that was certainly our intention, that we would pack our bags across each of the 10 districts. Our volunteer management committee met twice during lockdown remotely, and we came to the conclusion that trying to achieve that under the current circumstances would have been very difficult for us and for the volunteers, because we've had to completely change how we pack our bags. So for this year, even though our intention was that we would pack across the district, we've made the decision to pack just locally in Watford, where we store all of them at the moment. That said, we've had over 400 we've had over 400 volunteering opportunities we've made available over the last, over 5-week period, starting 3 weeks ago, and they've all been filled. So I think it gives a really good insight when we are able to pack across the county of the sort of engagement we can have in local areas.
So lovely to hear about when things are so difficult for everybody at the moment. So well done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nguala. I know that, as you say, there's a lot of councillors in one room at the moment, and that we all numerously sit on different bodies and take part in different groups. So knowing that when you're looking for storage space, this is a useful body to let know, because we can all put out feelers for you, and I know that we will. And next I have Councillor Rice. Mike?
I just wanted to say, being a councillor in his late 70s, when do I get my bag?
You're not feeling loved, Councillor Rice?
Not at the moment, no.
Maybe the committee can send you a card. Do I have any other questions at all, apart from Mike? Sorry, Mike, was that your whole question? You'd like to know when you're getting your gift bag?
No, that was just tongue in cheek. Absolutely wonderful. I'm not into the 80s yet, quite. And I'll look forward when I do get into the 80s, if I require any love and attention, of coming to you, Lynn.
Thank you. What I would say is the qualifying age to receive one of our bags is 55. The average age of recipients is in the early 80s.
There you go, Councillor Rice, you're just too young. Far too youthful for a gift bag. I can't see any more hands up at the moment. So Lynn, thank you very much for your presentation. You're welcome to stay with us for the remainder of the meeting if you'd like to listen to the other speakers, but I do know that it's 8:10 and nobody will be in any way offended if you decide to leave as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll stay for the other speakers and then I'll leave you to your business.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Cava Johnson from Letchworth African Caribbean Community. Would you like to address the committee? Thank you for joining us this evening, and would you like to go ahead and address the committee?
Oh, thank you for having me. It's the North Part, African Caribbean Community. The
Sorry.
group name. Sorry, no, sorry, that's fine. It's just that's what it's registered as and everything. But thank you for having me. The group that we have put together has been established by myself and 2 other committee members. We're Tony Williams and Maureen Rose Brown. After Tony Williams had organised the Black Lives Matter protest, more sort of like a community sit-in kind of thing in Hitchin. You would have seen it on the hill. Sorry, I'm not a Hitchin native, so I don't really know many places. But I'd attended because it was a peaceful protest, and I was really astounded by the amount of support from all different types of people in the community. And I think that we sort of gathered together and decided that we wanted to do something for the African Caribbean community in North Hertfordshire to sort of pull the lots of different groups together. We are aware that there are lots of groups in North Hertfordshire that are small unregistered groups, some religious groups, music groups, and we just really sort of wanted to have everybody sort of working together and to do something that was a little bit more cohesive, as we all seem to have the same goal in terms of sharing culture. And for Black History Month, we were hoping, we had amazing plans to really sort of share African and Caribbean cultures with the rest of the community. We had a whole plan of activities, from a gala dinner to we're doing some partnership work with the Broadway Cinema, and there was another organisation, I can't remember what their name is now. Sorry, time of day. We were going to do some outdoor cinema events. We were doing a plaits and braids hair care workshop with a local businesswoman, Pauline Jean-Jacques. We were going to have exhibitions. So there was a lot that was organised, but we've had to sort of try to be quite savvy with our tech skills and try and bring as much as possible online, so we can actually sort of mark and represent Black History Month and celebrate it with the community online. But then as many events as possible, we're postponing to have like a Black History Month reloaded in 2021. Or, provided that everything is safe. Yeah, so our group at the moment are trying to sort of work together to try to do things as creatively as possible. We would like to, in the future, we have been granted very generously, thank the councillors for the grants that we've been given so far, and we are trying to use the funds in the wisest way possible, putting it towards actually supporting the community to do as much as possible online. So far we've had some poetry, mental health, writing workshops. We've had delivered the first last week, we're about to deliver the second this week, and we've got the first of our hair care workshops going online on Sunday. And yeah, we just hope to deliver as much as we can during the lockdown period. So we are still connecting as a community and bringing people together, but then also, so we are gearing people up for the events for when we can actually sort of gather the community together and sort of make it more of a celebratory kind of, event. Yeah, but I think that's about it for now. We've got lots of plans for the future. In terms of supporting community groups, supporting local entrepreneurs, and children and young people. So we do have quite a lot of activities planned for children and young people. So yeah, there is lots on the agenda for next year, hopefully. Cross fingers, cross toes.
Thank you very much. That was really interesting and helpful. I just I have a hand up already, and actually I'm going to go straight to to Councillor Nguala.
Okay.
Yet another question from Councillor Nguala. But I just wanted to say that I'm just delighted to hear about the work you're doing, Cava. I think it's really, really needed. And it feels like you're in the fledgling stage, shall we say? And so you've got lots of things in the pipeline. But I'm really interested to hear about what you're doing. The hair care, for example, my daughter will be delighted to have a look at that, because we are really lacking in hairdressers and to be able to buy products for black hair within this area. I don't think it's quite as bad in Hitchin, but Letchworth particularly is really poor in what you can buy locally. So I'd be really interested to hear how other people are coping with that. So yeah, just really want to support you. And I think Helen and I were having a briefest of chats about inviting you back again sometime, as you haven't had very long, and it was kind of last minute this time. So just so you can keep us updated with what's going on.
That would be fantastic. I would really, really very much like to come back and see back. I don't think we could sort of describe just how grateful we were for the funds that we received. I think to set everything up, I was brought on board and I wasn't aware of all of the work that was happening. I think several people had the idea of doing something for Black History Month, but because I don't know, something just felt different about this year and really wanted to mark something. I previously had worked for the North Hearts Minority Ethnic Forum, and I'd been there for about 5 years, and we tried to sort of mark things. And the forum always seemed like it was unfortunately plagued at times by just a lack of engagement. No matter how much we went out and sort of did things, drawing people back was quite difficult. And when we did have people, they engaged really well, but it's just sort of like, getting them to come back to begin with was quite hard. And doing it, I suppose, engaging with the community this way around, very much online, has been a completely different experience. It's been quite unique, actually.
Wow. So what, more people have come forward because it's online and it's easier?
Well, potentially, yeah. I mean, we've had a lot of engagement. I don't for a second underestimate the effect that the murder of George Floyd had on people. I think that it's quite morbid to think of it, that it's like almost a captive audience. A lot of people were at home, a lot of people were spending a lot of time on social media. So then to see this man die as horrifically as he did touched people in a way that I don't think that any of us expected, because it wasn't a new phenomenon. Police brutality in America is not a new phenomenon. So I just feel like it has something to do with the times. And as a Letchworth native, someone who's sort of born and brought up the whole of my life in Letchworth Garden City, and I love my community, I love my town, to share my culture, because I think that that's a very big part of it, sharing my culture with other people that aren't from my cultural background is really important to me, because I feel like I'm part of this community. So I want people to feel like they can talk to me as well, because I was approached by a lot of people from different backgrounds who were completely outraged by what they were seeing, but really wanted to support and didn't know how to, and didn't know whether or not their support would be welcome. And I just wanted to make sure that they felt like they were a part of that as well. So
because it was a very mixed response.
It was
ethnically, a very mixed sort of people that turned up at the protests.
Yes, completely.
Protests. It was a lot of white people, a lot of black people.
Everybody.
It was very mixed. So it's really important to capture that, isn't it?
It is. And it was fantastic. I was really sort of happy to see that, as a community, we really pulled together. and we just want to build on that. So yeah.
I don't want to take up any more of the committee's time, but I will contact you, Cava, if
Oh,
that's
definitely.
all right, and we can
That's
talk more,
fine.
because I'm really interested to hear what you're up to. So thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I'll just talk when I'm muted again, shall I? Thank you very much.
That's okay.
It's obviously horrific that the reasons that the demonstrations took place, and that so many people were engaged were brutal and horrific. And it's been really nice this evening to hear you say that any green shoots of positivity are coming from such tragic circumstances. So thank you. I think that Claire, you wanted to have a point of, you wanted to add something at this point?
I just wanted to add, just for members' information, that Cava was talking about funding that's been received. That's come from the district-wide pot. So the group have received, or will very soon receive, £4,000 from the district-wide pot that's been agreed. And the other thing is that the group worked very closely with the North Herts Museum, and currently there's a Black History Month exhibition in the North Herts Museum, and it's well worth going to visit. It was just those 2 points I wanted to add in.
Thank you very much, Claire, and thank you again, Cava, for coming and talking to us. And as Sue said, we've definitely discussed that as one of those green shoots of positivity going forward, that I think we'd like to invite you to come back and speak to us again later in the year.
We'll definitely love to do that. Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, and so the last of our speakers in public participation, we have a short presentation from Julia Sananda. Am I right in thinking that Julia and John, you're going to do this as a double act? That seems like the wrong expression.
Just Julia.
Okay, thank you very much, John. Okay,
Well,
Julia.
John may come in at questions, but I'll do the presentation. Now, I did send one in advance. I'm not sure if you've got it or not. Is that?
Oh,
look at that. This is good, isn't it? I don't have to do the technology. Okay. So thanks for inviting me along. We're going to hopefully be quite quick. We just wanted to really raise your awareness of some work we've been doing in the Letchworth Cyclist group. Letchworth Cyclists is formed of a bunch of local cyclists, which Transition Town have been coordinating, but our membership isn't, goes beyond us. We've got some people from cycle groups, and just general people interested in the cycling in the town. And over a number of years, we've a few years back, we came up with an idea of how a network could look across the town, a cycling network. And during lockdown, we decided to try and move that kind of idea forward a bit. So on this, I suppose the same thing to say, we've always had a vision in our head that really anyone who from the age of 8 upwards should be able to cycle on the network, not on the paths, but have a safe network. So our aim has always been to sort of think about people less confident in cycling rather than your lycra clad people who want their showers and things. Where we're coming from is getting the young people on their bikes to school, and the less confident people back on their bikes. And I suppose in with the whole culture that's come with COVID about cycling, just trying to get us all back on our bikes. So what we've done over the course of lockdown, it's had some quite socially distanced bike rides, re-looking back at our network. And I think thinking a bit more, just being a bit more hopeful that actually we can reclaim some road space. When we first looked at this, we kept feeling we'll never get the drivers, to rebalance. But this time we've gone back and thought, well, what happens if we had half that road space? Do they need, could you put some one-way systems in? Could you actually make that a quiet road and just bollard it off and the car drivers could go other ways? So we've been trying to take a real good look at some of our roads and to think about, well, actually, can we use some of the tarmac we've already got more effectively to open up cycling? And the result of this is if you go to the web page of Letchworth Cyclists, which is on this slide, you'll find on there a couple of reports, a sort of high-level report and some very detailed reports of a whole load of schemes. So we've really gone down into the detail of how we think particular roads or outside schools can be fixed. And what you see to the right there of that slide is actually it's an online tool. It's OpenStreetMap, which you can click on as well from that website. And in there, you can sort of zoom in, zoom out, press on one of those lovely little pair drops, and in it, it'll describe what we think you could do with that area. So there's some real thinking going on from local cyclists about what you can do to sort this town out and get a cycling network in. Can I move to my next slide? Is that possible? Brilliant. Okay, so what sort of things have we been thinking about? Well, one is just to redesign roads to include cycle lanes. So something like Gurnham Road, which I've put an example there, is quite a wide road. It's one way already, and it could actually have a counterflow cycle lane up it, which cyclists would love, because actually you have to get up go up from east-west or whatever. I'm not very good on the east-west, but anyway, to do that, to get from the north from Mrs. Howard Hall up to say Broadway Gardens, you can do it on Pixmoor, you can do it on Station Road, and you can't do it on any other road. So, you know, a very simple thing would be a new cycle lane up there to actually improve connectivity. Things like Dutch roundabouts. I mean, Cambridge has had a massively priced roundabout, but if you look at some of our roundabouts, they're almost Dutch already. Look at the one outside the station with all its zebra crossings. It wouldn't take much to actually, you know, well, I don't think it'd take much to turn some of those in, or elements of those, into Dutch roundabouts. So we've got ideas for how you could actually perhaps add the cycle lane round and finish the job off. Toucan and parallel crossings are something that we thought about. A lot of our pelican crossings could easily be converted to toucan crossings, so the cycle routes can get across them. And the picture there of what is a parallel tiger crossing in London, which you imagine outside Fernhill School, you could have a turn their zebra crossing into a parallel crossing, and you get the kids cycling into school safely. So there's sort of I think where we've been looking is how you can enhance what we've already got and hopefully turn it into a cycle network. We thought about direct routes. So there's a picture there of, taken on the Jackmans, which is actually a lot of these very wide paths. You know, I think when the Jackmans was formed, the idea was cyclists would actually go round on the roads, but the roads are less pleasant. They're not direct. So actually there's opportunities of direct routes, and it's particularly with the new housing planned in the old Lanark school site, and actually at the bit where you exit, there's real opportunity there to sort out the cycling at the same time to actually get cycling routes. And then I've put the idea of actually bollards in. So one of the ideas around Hillshot School is you could actually put bollards in, which would allow the children to cross safely into the infant school and actually perhaps make it harder to drive your kids to school. So it's actually thinking about just, you know, the things we're supposed to be thinking about, putting people off cycling. So that's the sort of thing. So if you go on to my last slide, please. Okay, so what we're really wanting to do is actually say, you know, quite often in the past we've said, oh, here's 5 schemes for cycling for Letchworth, and we get bits of cycle tracks that start and stop, and some of them stop very quickly, as we know, you know, on places like Station outside Morrison's, there's some very weird cycle lanes around the place. We think there's a benefit in actually having a comprehensive cycle network plan. And we recognise that actually delivery of that may take years and years, you know, to get the funding to do it. But I think to have a vision in place for Letchworth, you know, and something that where we know that any scheme that we actually do put in Little One is part of the bigger jigsaw is important. So what we are trying to do here is to have that bigger picture with a view that we're not asking for it all to be delivered straight away. We're not unrealistic, but we do think it's good to have a vision of where we're trying to go to, and also to make sure that if something's done, we know how it's going to be connect with anything else that's going to happen. So I think that's really important, a reason for actually having a network plan in our vision in our head. Also, we keep looking and getting very frustrated because we see highway works going on, new housing developments, you know, new things like we had the, you know, that Costa Coffee and, dare I say it, Drive in Morrison's, which is a transition, is kind of you just think, oh no, but we've had those developments and there were opportunities there for cycle lanes that could have got the children to Knights Templar School. And we think if we had a comprehensive plan, it might be easier to suddenly realise an opportunity is coming with some work to actually get some cycle lane down, you know, on a safe cycle route. So I think that's another reason for having a proper vision and a plan. And the third reason is that actually we've seen during COVID, there was suddenly an opportunity to bid for funding. Now, to have a plan ready to be able to say, well, which of our schemes hits their buttons and get it straight in, I think is a really powerful thing to have as a council and as a town. So really what I mean, we're going to be working and trying to move things on here, but we'd really like our Letchworth Area Committee to support the idea of having a comprehensive cycle network plan for Letchworth. That it's not a scary thing to do. This is a brave, thing to do, to have this sort of plan in place for the town. And secondly, we really would like to sort of work with the council to transform this plan up into actually an NHDC adopted plan. So often we find a contractor from London comes in, spends a couple of days, says what he thinks for the town. The lovely thing about this is it's people who cycle around Letchworth. It's people whose kids are trying to get to school in Letchworth. If we can work that in, surely we'll get a better plan and vision, and then actually, then it's a case of which thing gets priority for funding. But just looking later tonight, you've got the Section 106 money, you've got sustainable transport money in. It's a sort of thing we could gradually pick off if we had the plan. So really, I suppose tonight it was about letting you know this thing exists, where it exists, what the community's been working on, and then seeing if you can help us, perhaps help us get the vision into Letchworth and in NHDC's planning. So thank you for your time. That's what I wanted to share with you.
Thank you very much for a very thorough and professional presentation, Julia, and also to IT support for making it so snazzy and smooth. I already have some hands up from councillors. I'm afraid I was listening to Julia Sananda while she was speaking, and I'm not sure which one of you put your hand up first. I'm going to start with Councillor Mantle on this occasion because he hasn't spoken yet.
Thank you. What I wanted to say is the council you're pushing it an open door as far as the council is concerned. We now have a transport officer who's extremely enthusiastic and extremely hardworking and very keen on cycling. And I can assure you that the executive member and myself discuss regularly how we can improve cycling facilities within the Garden City. There's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of stuff we've inherited, which heaven only knows how it was done. The one that really gets me, by the way, is the one just by Grange Road on Wilbury Road, where I think it's 10 yards of cycle track, might even be 20. But we have got Daniel Washington as our transport officer, and you do need to be working closely with him. He's very keen, very enthusiastic, and knows ways of getting funding, or try to. The problem is that we've got a county council as the highway authority, and I'm not so sure that they've yet realised that bicycles are a means of transport. They seem to be rather car orientated, shall we say. But please do carry on, do work with the council and make sure that we're working together, and that very much that Daniel is involved in everything you're trying to achieve. Because good luck. I mean, one of the old gripes, for example, I've always had is how on earth do you get from my ward, which is Letchworth East?
Councillor Mantle, you seem to have muted yourself before you'd finished speaking.
Yeah, I know. Technology is not my friend tonight, I'm afraid. But I just really wanted to encourage you to carry on and work with the council and to work with the transport officer and the area of the council which he is just works in, and hopefully maybe you can even interest some county councillors.
Thank you. We have actually met with Daniel and are in contact with Daniel, and we did put some ideas. When we were doing the tranche 1, tranche 2 funding bids, we put in some ideas of where parking, and use some of the knowledge we've gained to try and help out with that one. So we are in contact.
Thank you very much, Julia, for responding to Councillor Mantle. Next, I have Councillor Allen. I had Councillor Allen. Next, I have Councillor Levitt then.
Thank you, Ellen. Yeah, as Ian says, you're pushing against an open door with a lot of the Letchworth councillors here. When we have our twice a year highways liaisons meetings, there's a few of us that are always bringing the cycle paths up, not just provision of new ones, but looking after the ones we've got and actually making sure they're still usable and not going to get your head cut off by a tree as you try to cycle underneath it. So you're pushing against an open door on that one. And as you say, there's plenty of money in the 106 to go towards these schemes. But as Ian said, it's county council do the one-way systems. It's county council block the roads off. It's county council put the road markings down. It's county council who do all the traffic orders. You really, really need to be pushing county to bring this into their scheme. They've got the transport plan. You really, really need to make county aware, and you will get the backing of many of us here. In fact, I'm sure probably all of us here for this, but you need to, the push needs to be with county.
I mean, that's an interesting one, because we have actually had discussions. We know Trevor Mason quite well at county, and various other people, and we, engaged when they were doing the North Central plan. But I find they're more interested in discussing sort of how do you get from Hitchin to Letchworth to Bulldog, than actually thinking about how do you get to those cycle lanes. How do the kids get to school in Letchworth? Yeah. And that's the bit where I thought it's got a bit confused in my mind. I understand there's going to be a Letchworth walking and cycling strategy developed. And it's sort of, I thought that was going to be developed by NHDC. Then it seems it might be HCC. So it's sort of understanding how to get it, how to sort of, who is going to listen? Because often everyone nods, but actually then life carries on, and a contractor comes in and makes a plan. And we would love to break that cycle, and actually do it, bring the community in to bring its views of the plan. I mean, the one thing the county's about to do is to do the link from Jackman's to the Grange over that very high railway bridge. And I understand they're just going to push a bicycle up. We're not even going to sort the disability issues or push chairs, but I might be wrong on that. But the reality is that proposal's been sitting with exactly the same words for years now. It's not progressing it. They don't know what to do with it once you get over the bridge, and into the area over that side, how it's going to weave up through the paths, because the paths aren't big enough. And these are the things we've got solutions to. And it's just understanding how you sort of get a wider vision for Letchworth, which they seem to be interested in just odd routes, or one connection, rather than thinking about, well, actually, why have we got such a poor cycle to school rate in Letchworth, and how do you hit some of those junctions of issues? So any help to try and, I suppose, get us to the right people to actually get this sort of plan adopted will be great. I know exactly how you feel, Julie, because it was my portfolio, and I did used to get extremely frustrated with trying to get county to buy in to local schemes. We can develop our own strategy, what we would love to see in Letchworth, and we can present that to highways. So when we say to them, look, you're doing this scheme, this is our strategy, please try and make it fit in. And it quite often comes down to money in the end, to be quite honest with you. But
Councillor Levitt, Councillor Hone actually has got his hand up, and I'm mindful that he is a county councillor, so might want to make a helpful interjection at this point. Councillor Hone, I'm not going to talk over you, but Julia, I'm also just wanting to flag up that the Transport Users Forum are hoping to schedule a specific meeting on walking and cycling, and that we'd be looking to get all the stakeholders in one room together at the same time, which I think might help advance your ideas a little bit. But I'm going to hand to Councillor Hone, who was next.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yes, Julia, I'm just looking at my emails. I've got some dating back to 2016 and 17 from you, which I've been copied on, with your communications with North Herts District Council and with Herts County Council. Yes, and we have a transport plan, which is, I guess, the person who leads on that is Councillor Derek Ashley. Derek Ashley is the portfolio holder responsible for these sorts of things. Okay, Phil Bibby is highways, but when it comes to planning of transport, then it's Derek Ashley who should be doing that. Of course, we do have published plans out of consultations on not only cycling and walking, but also the infrastructures we're looking to put in place. It just goes to show, though, of course, the fact that if you go to district, you go to county, how much easier it would be if you only have one person to go to rather than two, wouldn't it? But of course, a lot of people are against that. So the principle being that I think if you try Derek Ashley first, again, and I thought the first time, it'd be Julia, that you've gone that route, and certainly officers down at County Hall. I've seen, yes, the plans they have to go across from Jackman's to the Grange, and a couple of others as well that they put in. There's certainly one going from the station as well, isn't there? But yes, they are they are. I say, a bit bitty, really, There's they're not connected up, and so you have to get off your bike halfway, or you have to go back onto a main road halfway. Now, that's not saying that we should have in place where, and somebody, you mentioned Gurnon Road. I'd have great hesitations about following that 40-footer that's coming down there. He knows it's one way, and he's coming out from the back of the shops there where he's delivered. And he's coming down Gurnon Road, and he's got a bike coming towards him that's taking up some room. I have fear for safety on that. So anything that you can propose, please bear in mind that officers at HCC will first and foremost look at safety, the safety of the cyclists. That's the first priority. It's not whether it's convenient, it's not whether it's wide enough, it is the safety of those cyclists. And if we saw an issue where that's a direct conflict, I see that, I would need a lot of persuading to have cyclists going up Gurnon Road and 40-footers coming down. That I need persuading to think that's a good idea. However, that being said, go to Derek Ashley and he may well be able to come up with some answers that solve some of your problems.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hone. Julia, it feels like almost some of the questions, sorry? Okay. Julia, did you want to ask, Councillor Hone, it felt like your questions were almost literally posing questions to Julia. Julia, did you want to respond to Councillor Hone?
Well, I'm not going to debate Gurnon Road here. I think, in some ways
No,
you come up with an idea of what the network is, and then what you really want to do is have that dialogue. And I suppose as a community, we found it very hard to have the dialogue. Well, with Daniel at one point we said, well, here's our top 5 things. Can we get them costed and see what they would cost, to then see if we could match that to 106 funding, or whatever. And that, which we didn't get any costings back ever, so it's sort of breaking this log jam of sort of just waiting for, to me, it feels like we're waiting for a delivery of a plan for a route that Herts County Council have decided is right for us, rather than us being able to get our ones. And I think somehow it would be lovely to, from a community perspective, to sort of see that shift a bit, and actually saying, well, actually, if Letchworth thinks the best route is that one, and I'm not saying which one it is, but if we say that's the number 1 priority, could actually Herts at least give us a quote or a discussion on that one, which we need to work out how to have that debate, shall we say.
This sounds like a really big topic. I think I've had meetings with Daniel Washington and conversations with Councillor Mantle, and I know that it's recognised as a really important topic, and I think if at all possible we will get a Transport Users Forum scheduled as soon as we can, and that this particular walking and cycling issue, not just for Letchworth but for the district, is going to be a whole meeting topic, and that we would be inviting all the relevant stakeholders to be in the room at the same time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Julia, for your very detailed presentation. I'm sorry, I have got a hand up, Councillor Nguala.
Yes, me again. Thank you. I was just going to say that one of the ways that this might be, you might feel more supported, Julia, in moving this forward is this particular ward councillors picked up on the suggestions you've got for their ward and maybe supported you in that. So you were talking about the railway crossing from the Jackman's up to the Grange. Do you mean the one that goes over the railway line at Green Lane, that junction?
Well, the one that's in the council plan is to go over the one that's at Dunham's Lane, the one with the lots of steps.
Oh, right, okay.
That is the only planned cycle thing at the moment from the Herts County Council. Now, whether that's the best use of council money I think is debatable, but that's the one.
Okay, because for example, that's in my ward. Yeah. So, we might be able to help push for sensible suggestions with you.
Okay, that'd be brilliant.
I'll support you. Okay. But Helen will let us know when the Transport Users meeting is. We can meet up there perhaps.
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you again, Julia. If you would like to stay for the rest of the meeting, we'd be delighted to have you. But equally, if you would like to leave, that's absolutely fine too.
Okay. Thanks ever so much.
Thanks. Okay, we're up to item 5 on our very packed agenda this evening, which is a presentation from Chris Wilson, the bid manager, who I can't currently see. Chris, I have got a picture of You're there. Excellent. As if on cue. Chris, welcome. Thank you for being here. Would you like to address the committee?
Yeah, sure. Good evening, everyone. Nice to see our local councillors. Hi, Daniel, Helen, David. Sorry, I haven't got a fancy presentation. You're just going to have to put up with my voice, unfortunately. But apart from that, quick update on the town centre. So September footfall year to date, we're down by 11%, which isn't bad, especially within the current climate. October to date, we're 34% down for October. So I think with the current crisis, a lot of people are now starting to stay in a lot more. So we're seeing that reflected in the footfall within the town centre. So as a bid, we've been doing what we can to try and drive safely footfall back into the town centre in terms of initiatives and just supporting the businesses in any aspect that we can. So I'm not sure if you've visited the town centre recently. We've got a lot of shop safe signage, as you can see in my background, shop local, shop safely. New hand sanitizer units coming in, some have been put in already. And then just greening the town, trying to make it a bit more presentable. So today we had new planters installed on Lease Avenue. The arena parade canopy, I'm sure many of you may be aware. It's the first thing you see when you enter the town centre. We've got new lighting put in from County Council, and we've just had some new hanging baskets installed today. So there's little bits and bobs that we're trying to do just to lighten the mood in the town centre. But mostly, Christmas is just round the corner, fast approaching. And I know many of you know about our Christmas light switch on, which is notorious for providing over 23,000 people last year. So that won't be happening this year. But however, what we've done is the money that would normally spend on providing all the entertainment fireworks for the Christmas light switch on, we've now invested it into a new lighting scheme for the town, which is I'm excited about. I'm looking forward to it because we've got a new lighting design scheme, which the whole town centre is just a whole new lighting scheme. So none of the stuff we had last year. We've got lighting installations. My favourite is the big giant present, which is a great photo opportunity, which will be installed in Leigh Square. I'm not sure if anyone visited King's Cross Station in London last year, but they had exactly the same giant illuminated present with a swing inside. But we had to get rid of the swing because of the standards keeping it COVID secure. And then we've got a giant teddy bear in the colonnade in between the three magnets statues. So, I mean, this Christmas is visiting Letchworth as a family. I think it'll be fun and exciting just to come and have a look at the lights, because quite a lot has gone into the lights this year. Heritage Foundation, I'd like to thank them also because they funded most of it, and the bid made up the shortfall. Apart from that, we're in the process of planning a virtual Christmas market. We do have a physical Christmas market that I'm aiming to put on between the 3rd and the 6th of December. But yeah, so there is a lot of stuff in the pipeline. As a bid, we're in a good financial place compared to previous years. So we've got a lot of work to do and a lot of support to give to the town centre businesses. But so far, so good. We can't complain. I know a lot of people have seen in the news about the Nationals in Garden Square, Peacocks, and so forth. I had a meeting with Jack Philbin today, just an update in regards to, I think they've got 9 days to find a buyer. So it's not all doom and gloom yet. So fingers crossed something comes through. I'm not sure if people have visited the town centre. The scaffolding's now come down on Block C on the new development. So it's a nice addition to the town centre. Yeah, apart from that, that's my update.
Thank you very much, Chris. I have got hands up already, so you are going to be asked a few questions, which I'll thank you in advance for answering. I just wanted to say before I take the questions that I'm very much aware, and I think actually a number of councillors in the room are very much aware of the amount of work that the bid put in to writing really accessible and easy to understand guidelines for the many small businesses that we have in our town centre who don't have teams of administrators and health and safety experts and would really have struggled, I think, without your help and support to feel so confident reopening safely and to keep adapting to the ever-changing landscape of guidelines. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for all of the work that the bid's been doing to facilitate that. The first hand I have up is Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Chair, and I'd like to echo that the bid have done fantastically in Letchworth and they have really worked hard on it. So thanks a lot, Chris. I was very nervous with the beer and food market that you did. You did a fantastic job. Everything was done very, very well. With the potential loss of these 3 national shops in the town, I see we've got a new business about to open with the escape room, which is brilliant, really exciting. That should draw people. Are there any other, I know you can't give names, are there any other businesses scheduled to come towards the town? And that's it, really. Thank you.
There is, but there's not much I can say. In terms of Lease Avenue, so Lease Avenue will be full by the end of December. We've got a new street food deli going in at 38 next door to Just For Me. I'm not sure if you've seen the bottom of Lease Avenue now. Martin's stores, 21st Century's opened, and the arcade is doing really well. We've got new tenants moved in. Dark Hammer Games, we've got the new lighting, arcade, photo studios. So in terms of filling the voids, we're getting there. Well, yeah, the escape room is probably the most exciting part of. As you know, retail's changing, the town centre is changing, so we have to change, adapt. You know, a lot of people are using the town centre differently now in terms of leisure. It's more leisure led.
And then just another thing, due to the global pandemic, we didn't get to have our carnival this year.
Oh yeah.
Can I request that we will be looking at having a carnival next year?
Oh, most definitely.
Wicked.
Most definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. I don't have any other hands up, but I just know that you've had some interesting data around how people are behaving differently since they've returned to the town centre. I think I remember you telling a meeting that I was at that even on the days when footfall was down, what was happening when people got into town was a little bit different.
Yeah, so the dwell time in the town's changed because we've done a thermal, it's like a thermal imaging where we can see the clusters of people and where they tend to linger, especially from the train station. So compared to last year, people that would come out of the train station would normally look around the shops a little bit and have a coffee, sit down. But now the dwell time is changed. So they'll come in for a specific shop and then leave the town. So I think that's probably where COVID is having a detrimental effect in terms of dwell time and people looking around and actually shopping now.
Thank you very much, Chris. I've got another question from Councillor Levitt.
Not so much as a question, but just really as a retailer in the town, just backing up what Chris has said and was about the dwell times there as well. And yes, it has been really noticeable that people are coming in, getting what they want, going again. Particularly since the mask wearing came in as being compulsory in the shops. And I think that explains your huge 30-odd% drop in October, that people find it difficult having to put masks on and off to go in and out of shops all the time. So I think that's one of the effects of it. But one thing I've noticed is we've seen a lot of people in the last few months that are coming from outside Letchworth to visit us that we never used to see before, because they just want somewhere different to go, because it just does a change in their routine. So I think that's quite encouraging that we're seeing people doing that sort of thing now. I think it is as well, because we've got a lot of new businesses come into the town as well. And that's just my perspective from it as a retailer in the town.
Helen, if you could remember to unmute yourself. Chris, did you want to say anything about Councillor Levitt's not quite question?
Oh no, I think Dave is onto something there really. I think with Letchworth, we're quite lucky as well in terms of having wide pavements. I mean, we've seen a lot of visitors out from Royston, St. Neots. I mean, it's still local, as we're encouraging people to shop local, but locally, I mean, we could, being in Letchworth, we could visit Baldock, it's still local to us, and Hitchin, so yeah.
Thank you very much. I don't seem to have any more raised hands. Thanks once again for your presentation. Always appreciate you coming in, and I'm mindful that you've come into the area committee numerous times to update us, and it's always very welcome. You're welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting, but if you need to get off, because I think you've worked a really long day today, that's absolutely fine as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Actually, as Chris had just said, that we were having, and Councillor Levitt had pointed out that we were having visitors from other towns, and that perhaps some of that might be due to our architecture and nice wide pavements. It seems that that's a really appropriate time to be moving on to our next speaker, who is Stuart Sapsword from the Heritage Foundation, because of course our Garden City design principles might well be helping people to feel safe in Letchworth specifically at this difficult time. So Stuart, I'd like to invite you to speak to the committee.
Thank you very much, Helen. And first of all, I guess thank you for inviting me. And Councillor Levitt, I can't help but your background, flying the flag for the cinema and the theatre industry there. So thank you very much, making me feel very welcome. And that for me is a pillar in the community to support what Chris has been talking about in terms of getting people back into the town. So we've seen an increase in numbers at the cinema over the last couple of weeks, and let's hope that continues, because I know that drives custom into the town centre. So what I'm going to do is just spend a few minutes telling you a bit about the Heritage Foundation over the past few months. Obviously, as everyone has experienced, it has been extremely challenging. We are no exception to this. Most of you, if not all of you, understand the organisation and its makeup and how we generate our income. 75 to 80% of which is from our property portfolio, and this has been hit pretty significantly over the summer and autumn, to the tune we expect this year of a £2.5 million downturn. So that's 20% loss of income, and we expect that to continue through to the midterm, so through 21 and potentially 22. And obviously, as a result, we've had to readjust our business model and our approach and revisit our strategy. And over the summer months, we took quick action to undertake a strategic review. So firstly, identifying non-pay savings and working through an action plan there, making some pretty difficult decisions and tough cutbacks to ensure that we could identify savings. But unfortunately, that wasn't enough. So we've had to move to services. And unfortunately, we've had to cut some services, and some detail of that I'll outline in a minute. So we're now at the end of that strategic review. Staff that have been made redundant will finally, or the final few will depart in October. And we will now move towards a new strategy. And I hope that in early December, towards the end of the year, we can start communicating what that new strategy is. But I'll just give some headlines within these few minutes. Encouragingly, despite heritage and arts being at risk as part of our portfolio, we have in the last 48 hours been able to secure funding from the Arts Council through their Culture Recovery Fund. So we've secured £224,000 from them, which gives a lifeline, a pretty impressive and hopeful lifeline to our services beyond March next year, which is when the funding ends. And as part of that, we'll recruit a different team of staff to look at how we create a future working model, one that may be more reliant on external funding. Some positive news, though, is that we will continue to maintain our grants budget. So circa £600,000 per annum. We'll continue to provide that to our community and partners and services within, because we recognise the difficulty that has taken place over the last few months. Many of you will be aware of the community response service that's taken place, the community response team that we formed to support people that were affected by COVID, that were isolated, that were vulnerable, that were shielding. And again, we want to build on that and the partnerships that have been created. So in terms of the services that unfortunately we've moved away from because of the financial pressures, no longer do we deliver Active Letchworth. The theatre is currently dark and looks like it will be to at least the end of 2021. Our community transport service, the vehicles are currently or in the process of being stored, and we're working out if there is a future operating model that may rely on volunteers or another staffing structure. Discover Letchworth is no more, and unfortunately we've lost the Ernest Gardner Treatment Centre as well, and we recognise the gap that that leaves in the community. As I've said, we have secured short-term investment, external funding for our collection, for the museum service and for the Broadway Gallery, and we'll try and wrap that up in a total culture offer, working with partners locally. Some of those conversations have already started to happen to think about how we can create a vehicle or a way for attracting more money to the town and to celebrate the heritage of the town, celebrate the arts and the community groups that deliver those services. And the focus moving into 21, when we get a better sound footing and the industry starts to return, but the ambition is that the cinema and standalone farm will generate greater revenues for us to be able to support the reinvestment in the community, but also to ensure that we can maintain and continue to deliver those services. So we retain a few other services, our Stewardship and Development, as Helen stated, that remains. We continue to undertake our responsibilities within that. Farm and Cinema remains. Cultural learning, which is something we introduced about 18 months to 2 years ago, something we feel is very important to maintain. Children and young people have been affected significantly through the pandemic. We've all seen the levels of attainment and the gaps in attainment widening, and families struggling without the educational support or the support for children going into schools. So we thought it was very important to maintain that role. And we also continue with our families and child development project, which is at the moment primarily focused on the Jackman's estate and working with the small community group there and the organisations and schools, and supporting families that are in poverty within that area. As I said, the grants budget, we continue that. And we now turn with our new strategy to focus more on creating strong partnerships within the town. No longer do we have the resources where we can just go and do things. We're very reliant on being an enabler, a mobiliser, and working with those partners within the town to create strong partnerships, new activities, but to also draw in money from other funders so that we can do more and do it better. So there are a number of implications, obviously, that impact what we are trying to do. There are the vulnerable groups. There are more vulnerable groups emerging as we see each month with this pandemic, more people moving into poverty, more families, children with issues, those groups that are just about managing, that are now becoming very affected by the pandemic, and any kind of additional financial pressures can push them into an impoverished situation. There's a local economy that Chris has been talking about, so that significantly affects businesses and our tenants. Local plan, obviously there's been decisions and discussions recently as well, and delays to the process. Again, that's quite a significant element for us as an organisation. And as Chris said, the town centre, being part of the town centre strategy group, trying to identify ways to draw more people into the town is very important to us as well as Chris. But also out within the communities, and that's really where we've been working with our board is to identify our priorities. So our priorities in terms of user groups, whilst it's not confirmed, are very much around the vulnerable groups, around those that are isolated, children, young people, families, those that are just about managing and on the line of potentially becoming in a impoverished situation. So we're looking through our grants committee and our grants process to look at how we can invest in services, how we can invest in individuals and organisations to ensure that we've got the infrastructure within the town to be able to support these groups, but also to attract funding, to be able to secure match funding. So other priorities for us are very much at the top of the list: income recovery, working out within our property portfolio how we can ensure that our tenants can remain, how we can support new organisations and businesses to take on tenancies, looking at housing within the town. So obviously the local plan and LG1 is top of the list, but there are other opportunities, there are other schemes and initiatives. Supporting and working with local entrepreneurs and local activists, people that have keen passions and skills and ideas that we think they can bring to town to support our health and well-being focus, our cultural focus, and some of the other key components to what we're trying to do. And then also celebrating our green spaces. We shouldn't forget that, supporting people to use the green spaces, diversifying our offer, and being able to attract more people to Letchworth, but give greater opportunities for those within the town as well. So that's a brief summary of where we've been, where we're at, and maybe the start of where we might go in the future. But expect probably later in the year, early December, for us to be able to come out more publicly and formally with our new strategy, and then start working with partners to work out how we move this forwards. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Stuart. That was a very thorough presentation with a lot of information packed into a really quite pithy little piece of public participation. Thank you very much. I don't actually have any hands up, which does really surprise me. I'm just looking around. Oh, I've got one. Thank you very much, Councillor Levitt. It seems sensible for me to give it a minute. It seemed unlikely there weren't going to be any questions. Councillor Levitt.
Thank you, Helen. Stuart, I understand you've had a bit of good news on the grants front in the last couple of days on outside funding.
Yeah, so we secured £225,000 from the Arts Council, which is just incredible news. Looking around the sector and the network, obviously there's a lot of people being funded. There was £500 million on offer. I think they have given away 256 million of that so far. Some pretty impressive organisations and names on that list, many who weren't fully funded. We got everything we asked for and can now create some posts to try and breathe some life again into our heritage and cultural offers, which is a great relief for staff, a great relief for us, and we just have to use it wisely now. We've got 6 months to really turn this around and make sure we can embed something for the future.
Thank you very much, Councillor Levitt and Stuart. And now I have Councillor Derbyshire, Morgan.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Less of a question, more of a plea. With regard to the community transport scheme, please could we get something back in place soon, with possible, whether it is volunteers or not, because a lot of my residents are quite old. We have 5 wards and we have 5 sheltered homes in the Grange ward, and the service is very much missed by a lot of our residents.
Yes, I mean, we're absolutely in agreement there that it is a key service that we need to find a way to deliver. For me, some work has started. We've already begun looking at it. There are a number of different options. You'll appreciate that previously the organisation subsidised it to the tune of about £155,000 a year. We're not in a position to do that at the moment, but there are many other successful community transport services that don't require that level of subsidy. And we're looking at the models that might allow us to do it a bit more cost effectively.
Thank you.
Yeah, Morgan and I share a ward, and actually I had rather cheekily already spoken to Stuart on that topic, Morgan, so it's actually really helpful for me personally for you to be seconding it. Speaking of which, I'm going to go straight to Councillor Mantle, because I think he might have a useful interjection at this point.
Well, my main point I'd like to make, you were talking about working jointly with other organisations effectively. And I trust that the District Council or the Letchworth Committee of the District Council is very high up that list. There are a lot of ways, I'm sure, in which we can get synergy between what we are trying to achieve and what you're trying to achieve. And over many years, we've been trying to improve the relationship. And I think there's a great opportunity now that we might actually able to achieve some of those things some of us have wanted to do for years. On the community transport, of course, I think it's throughout the district, and can I say, as a portfolio holder, and I have been working to try and with the council to find ways of filling the gap. So this looks like a good starting point at which we can jointly work to see how between us we can provide community transport for the people of Letchworth.
Absolutely. Helen, did you want to say anything? I know we've had conversations obviously about what we may do, and the council looking at potentially prioritising community transport as well. And I think there's conversations about how we can all get round the table and look to create something that meets residents' needs.
Yeah, I think Councillor Mantle has kind of created an opening for you and I to talk about that, Stuart, which is very kind of him. We have had a number of conversations, including, again, the Transport Users Forum. The other topic we are very clear we'd like to schedule a Transport Users Forum on is community transport, again, so that we have the opportunity to get all the local stakeholders from across the district in the room, and the Heritage Foundation very much front and centre on that, but also some other bodies like North Hart CVS, for example, and get everybody around the table at once, because everybody has the same objectives. Everyone's really mindful, Councillor Derbyshire, of exactly where the gaps are, and are doing everything they can to fill them as quickly as possible. It's just a really challenging environment. But yes, thank you, Stuart. Yep, we have indeed been talking about it. Did you want to add anything else to that?
No. I mean, the fact is we're looking into it. Like I responded to Councillor Derbyshire, we're looking at the model of operating. That's still early stages, but I hope that the partnership can throw up more support rather than me having to come up with the answer.
Well, I know there is a community transport service that I think is still functioning in Royston, and that the advantage of a district-wide forum like the Transport Users Forum is that we might be able to get them into the room to share their expertise and ideas with us. So,
fantastic.
Sorry, Councillor Rice, thank you for waiting. I didn't mean to talk over you when you wanted to ask your question. You are next up.
Thank you, Helen. Yeah, good evening, Stuart. I was rather surprised to hear you say that the Ernest Daycare Centre has been shut. Now, is that shut on a permanent basis, or is it just being mothballed for the future?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's very difficult to shut this on a temporary basis. As you will imagine, that was one of the hardest decisions to table and to make. Again, that's something that, to give you a sense of the cost of it, it's in the region of £350,000 to keep that service going each year. So it's a very costly service. None of us are doubting the impact that it has to residents locally. At the moment, or as of the summer, all staff were made redundant. And again, you'll appreciate that there's very specialist skills within there, skills that don't exist anywhere else within the organisation. At the moment, the building, we're working with a primary care network for them to establish initially a COVID assessment centre, and in the future a COVID rehabilitation centre. So there's some good that will come of the building. But I think in certainly the short to medium term, it's not something that we see we can support.
Very sad.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Stuart. Yeah, obviously there were always going to be a few difficult questions that it was going to be uncomfortable. Yeah, when things just have to go, that is really sad. Thank you very much for talking to us about the difficult answers as well as the more positive ones. I don't have any more hands up at the moment, so I'm going to thank you, Stuart, for coming to speak to the meeting and bringing us so much information. And I know that also you've made it clear that there's a couple of other meetings that the Heritage Foundation are going to be attending and that we'll be working collaboratively together. So councillors will know if that's an invitation list that they want to get themselves onto. So thanks again for your time. Again, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but you're also welcome to go home and do something else. I'm actually going to propose, if there's no objections, that we have a comfort break at this point, because usually if we're still going at about 9 o'clock, we do. So I'm going to propose that we just take 5 minutes, which would mean that we would come back and all be back on our screens with mics and cameras open at 22 minutes past, if that's acceptable to everybody.
Thank you, Chair. Vic, could you put up the holding screen, and if members could turn off their cameras, please, and members of the public, thank you.
Perfectly timed, Helen. My Amazon man arrived during the break, so
I have a psychic link to Amazon.
yeah, must have seen him coming on the satellite thingy.
I went to the cinema actually, to the Broadway to see the Da Vinci screening of the Da Vinci exhibition. It was very good.
Yeah.
It smelled so clean, I found it hard to believe any virus or bacteria could possibly have been in there.
Yeah. Well, my youngest works there part-time, and that's what one of the main things they do is go around spraying everything and cleaning everything all the time. So
well, I can personally vouch for how good they must be at it, because I could have eaten my dinner off the stairs. Well, except that I was wearing a mask, which obviously really makes it quite hard to eat.
Yeah, just a reminder, we're still live on YouTube at the moment.
Thank you. I'm all right with the world knowing I went to the Broadway cinema. It was very good. But thank you, Vic.
Chair, I make it 23 minutes past. I don't know if you want to ask people to start returning.
Thank you very much, Hilary. Yes. Oh, how many people are we waiting for? It is now 24 minutes past. If members can make sure their cameras are back on.
Sorry, Chair, I couldn't find my unmute button. Then
well, I filled a gap.
So thank you. When everyone's cameras are back on, Anna will do another roll call just to check everyone can still hear and be heard.
Perfect, thank you.
And then we'll ask, I think Mr. Webb's the only member of public remaining. So once the roll call's done, Mr. Webb, if you would turn your camera off, that would be lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, if this was a bigger meeting, we could commence the roll call and come back to the people we're still waiting for.
Yeah, I think on the face of it, it's just Councillor Nguala, I think. But
I'll ping her a message.
Yeah. So,
oh, there she is. We were waiting for you.
Sorry, I'm here. Just hadn't switched my video on.
Thank you. Anna, if you want to do.
Thank you. I'll undertake the roll call. Councillor Helen Oliver.
Present.
Councillor Daniel Allen. Councillor Allen.
I'm not sure we didn't lose Councillor Allen before the comfort break, actually.
I believe we did.
Disappeared age.
Okay, I think we're going to need to proceed without him. I haven't heard anything from him, but I'll pop a message. Thank you.
Councillor Morgan Derbyshire.
Present.
Councillor Terry Hone.
Present.
Councillor David Levitt.
Present.
Councillor Ian Mantle.
Present.
Councillor Sue Anguala.
Present.
Councillor Mike Rice.
Present.
Councillor Adam Ruggiero Chaka.
Present.
And officers, we still have Simon Ellis.
Present.
Claire Morgan.
Yes, I'm present, thank you.
And Hilary Deneen.
I'm here, thank you.
Thank you. Have I missed anyone? So it's just Councillor Allen, I think. Thank you.
I've messaged, but I've not heard anything, so I think we need to proceed with the meeting. I believe that means that if he rejoins the meeting, he won't be able to vote on this, which will be item 7. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that means we are now on to item 7. Sorry that we're keeping you up and out so late. Simon, would you like to present your report to the meeting?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll go through, I've got a few updates and then I've got a few extra things to say about the funding that's left in the pot, and I know some of it was mentioned earlier with the transition towns actually. So just a few things that we've been doing and are doing over the next few months. The first thing is, and it is mentioned in the report, we need to collate information district-wide and send it to central government every year now from December 2020. It's called an infrastructure funding statement. And my colleague Steph Blunt's putting that together now. And it's quite fortunate actually, because the way we've been recording this information over the years is exactly the way the government wanted to be presented. So we just lift it from our database and put it into their system. But it will be on the website from December. There's sort of an annual account of the previous financial year as to everything that's happened across the district. But I've spoken with Councillor Mantle and Councillor Paul Clark over the last few months, and they're very keen to continue to doing the area committee updates every year so that we can have that information localised rather than it just being a sort of central hub, which might be a bit impenetrable for some people. So that's just more of an accounting exercise that we'll be doing. So the first one of those will be December 2020. The other thing that we're going to be still doing is looking at the option of a business case for a small sites community infrastructure levy, because as is said in the report, it's clear that for any development of under 10 dwellings, we can't secure any funding anymore. So it's very difficult to get the cumulative effect of developments that occur because lots of small scale housing developments are occurring and we're not getting any funding for any of the services. So we're looking at a business case for that. How much would it cost to administer? What would we be able to get out of it? Is it worth doing? Because the council would be the tax collector, but we would be funding a lot of the money would be going to the county council who run the key services. So we're doing a business case for that, and that's going to be looked at over the next few months. But overhanging that, which is going to make it slightly complicated, is the planning reforms in the government white paper. Because the government are now looking to move away from locally set community infrastructure levies. They want to do a national levy so that it's a uniform levy across the country. And the idea is that you give more certainty to the development industry and that you don't have all these little different taxes going on in different districts. So the government are suggesting that in the white paper, but at the moment we don't have any firm legislation on that. I think there's going to be a bit in Parliament on some of the things in the white paper over the next few months. But I don't know whether some members may have attended the training by the Planning Advisory Service, and the person who ran that training seemed to have had conversations with civil servants, and from his experience and from what he's been saying, he was very much of the mind that any reforms in the white paper will take quite a few years to come into the system. So as officers, and I'm sure you'll agree, all we can do is carry on working with the tools we have until told otherwise. So we'll carry on with all those projects and do everything that's being asked of us over the next few years on those elements. And you'll have seen in July 2020, we had the the new planning obligations supplementary planning document, which has been endorsed subject to the local plan being adopted. So it's been done, the work's been done, but we can't adopt that plan until we have a new local plan. Now looking at some of the detail, if you look at paragraph 8.44, and just before in the briefing, the chair asked me to take a look at the informal open space funding. If you can see on that table, there's still £17,000 plus for informal open space. And there's also, if you look at that, the one below, we've got 7,700 for pitch sport. And I've been having a conversation with Andrew Mills subsequent to your suggestion, Chair. And he's come up with a few ideas, which what we might be able to do is offset on the capital budget and use some of these funding as a way of saving on our own capital budget. For example, there's a project for landscaping around the War Memorial, which is a £15,000 capital project, which we may be able to use some or all of that informal open space funding. And then there's a Norton Common repair of footpaths scheme that he's got in his capital project, and that's a £10,000. So that £17,000 may be able to go towards some of those projects, which would then indirectly save on the council's capital budget. So already, Chair, your suggestion of just having a conversation with Andrew Mills may have sort of unlocked some of that funding that's remaining, and because it's always difficult to get these small amounts spent, as we know over the years. I keep coming along and reporting to you and saying, oh, it's difficult. And the other difficulty one that the other members have mentioned in one of the earlier conversations with the transition town was the sustainable transport funding, because you can see there we've still got £89,000 sitting there. And as councillors have mentioned, it's difficult to secure that funding because we don't have ownership of the means to deliver the schemes. But as Ian Mantle advised, the transition town, Daniel Washington is very good at coordinating all those sorts of conversations. So if we can get those two really together, I'm sure we can, especially Daniel, we can find ways of drawing down some of that £89,000 towards those cycle projects. I think that would be quite a useful way forward. On the pitch sport, Andrew Mills has got an idea to fund some football goals on some of the recreation grounds. So we may be able to make some progress on that as well. And I'll just finally remind members that £120,000 figure there for the healthcare. We've got in mind that could be used for the GP hub, which was planned in the centre of Letchworth. But I'm not that sure. I've not heard a lot of information on that over the last few months. We're sort of reserving it for that project. I know it was part of the town centre scheme that didn't get funding, but I'm not aware that that project's been dropped. So if anyone hears anything about that, just remind any of the agencies involved that we do have quite a big pot there that we can help to fund that project, just sitting there waiting, because it's quite a big amount of money. So yeah, that's it for me. I'll take any questions, but you can see that we've been trying to do our best in the last few months to carry on with policies and plans and working with the legislation we have, and also now that this reports come out and a conversation with Chair there, we can hopefully unlock some of the bits of funding that are still left to be spent in Letchworth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Simon. Apart from anything else, that wasn't very many days ago that we had a conversation. You've obviously been incredibly busy. So thank you for bringing so much information to us in this report, and then when you presented it. I do actually know a little bit about the Health Hub project. I'll take, as I understand it, although this is still very unformed, because the way that GPs are currently having to deliver their services has changed so radically that even when things return to the norm, I think that there's some idea that perhaps the new normal won't be what the old normal was anyway, and that there's quite a lot of conversation and consultation going on around what shape, if any, of Health Hub GPs in the area would want going forwards. But there's almost certainly someone better informed on that than me. So outside the meeting, I will hook you up with them if that's all right. Do members? Oh yes, I already have a question from Councillor Nguala.
Thank you, Helen. Simon, could I just ask you about table 5, if that's all right? So I just wanted to ask about, this is live. It says it's section 106 live. That means they're ongoing. They're live now, does it? Yeah.
Table 5 is you talk about the appendices there?
Yeah.
Yeah, table 5, what I've done is I've appended table 5, but I've just picked out the key points to put them in the list on 8.44. So what I've done is the table 5 is sort of the detail, and then paragraph 8.44 are the funding pools that we've got left that haven't been allocated to any particular project in Letchworth.
So, so some of the dates are, you know, like the former factory site, land at on the northwest side of Black Horse Road, is dated the 10th of November 2014. So that's just ongoing, is it? That hasn't. What's happening with it? So it says community centres towards the provision of community centres serving the development.
Yeah, what that means is
state, is it, on Black Horse Road?
Sorry, if I may, yeah, what happens is we receive the funding, the development gets planning permission. We usually receive the funding before the development commences. And then we have, under most Section 106 agreements, we have 10 years to spend it. So what we've got there, if we've received the funding in 2014, then we have until 2024 to spend it. And we've got a really good alert system that Steph Blunt manages very carefully. We've got traffic lights. So when we know that there's funding coming up to be spending,
okay, cool.
We do everything we can to get it spent. That so we're aware when there's, for example, there's one in Royston where there's leisure funding that we want to donate to the leisure centre extension, and that project's 2022 to 23, and we've got funding that needs to be spent within the next few months. So we've kind of reallocated it. So yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's quite difficult sometimes when you look at it and you see we've had that money for 6 years, you know, what are we doing with it?
What's happening? Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but
and further down as well, just because it's in my ward, I was interested. The healthcare contribution, what would that be for? Is there anything in mind for that?
Again, that's the hub. It's
the hub. Okay.
Cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sue and Simon. I am just checking that I don't have any more hands up, and I don't at this time. I understand, Simon, if there's no objection from the councillors, that it's okay for us to take your recommendations in your report as one and vote on them as a whole. So if there's no objections to that, I'm going to propose, Anna or Hilary, do I need to read out the full recommendations at this point?
Not unless the councillors need you to, but we can do that for you if you want to.
No, I'm getting only shaking heads. That's excellent. Of course, everyone's read the report anyway, so it's familiar with the recommendations. So in that case, I am going to propose the recommendations and ask for a seconder.
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Derbyshire. And if you would like to vote in the usual way, and Anna, if you would like to manage the vote for me, that'd be terrific.
Thank you, Chair. Could members please vote in the usual way? Green tick for yes, red cross for no, and blue raise hand for abstain. That's carried, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Simon. Sorry that we kept you up such a long time, but it was really useful information. Thank you.
That's quite right. I always enjoy it when it comes to the vote on an area committee because it's never knife edge like planning. So
Well, I'm glad we didn't put you through any unnecessary suspense.
That's quite all right. But mine.
Thanks. Okay, which brings us surprisingly efficiently through to item 8, which is the grants and community update, for which I think I am handing over to Claire.
Hello. I haven't really got very much to add to the report that you've already voted on the grants. The last recommendation is literally just to endorse the work undertaken by the Community Engagement Officer. And just a little update in the report, as Helen mentioned, I'm sure you've all read this. but the grant to the Letchworth Letchworth rink hockey has been released, and also you'll recall last year you allocated money to the acts of kindness, so their money for this year has been released as well, so that's all spent up now. And apart from that, there's been other ongoing lots of projects and getting involved with different elements of the community, and particularly working with food provision, youth provision, around mental health and people who are struggling at this time of year. And the other things we've just got going on in the background is the Holocaust Memorial Day in January, and we're going to be looking at setting up the volunteer awards for this year as well. So you'll be hearing about that in the very near future. So apart from that, there isn't anything else I want to add to the report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Claire. Councillors, does anyone have any questions for Claire regarding this report? No, that means it's really, really clear and easy to read and accessible and thorough. Thank you very much.
Sorry, Chair, we have Councillor Mike Rice.
I'm sorry, Mike, I missed you because you were physically waving, and now I see your little blue digital hand. Apologies. Please go ahead.
I just wanted to ask Claire, or if anybody else has got information, what's happening on Remembrance Sunday?
Funny you
sorry, go on.
Sorry, Chair, I shouldn't interrupt. Funny you should say that. I'm actually going to update under ward matters.
Okay, I can wait till then.
You didn't interrupt, Hilary. You answered the question, but that is exactly what I was going to say anyway. Do I have any other questions for Claire, or can I move? I think Claire was, if I've understood you correctly, we actually only need to vote on the recommendation 2.4 because we have effectively already voted on the earlier recommendation.
That's correct.
So I'm going to propose recommendation 2.4 as in item 8 and call for a seconder, please.
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rice. Noted, Councillor Levitt, that you were also willing to second. So if we can move to the vote in the usual way, and Anna, if you could do the counting for me, please.
Thank you, Chair. Could members please vote in the usual way with the green tick for yes, red cross for no, and blue raise hand for abstain. Thank you. That's unanimously carried. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to ask if anyone else has any ward information that they need to share before I hand over to Hilary to give us an update on what will be happening with Remembrance Service events in Letchworth. Oh, Councillor Levitt.
Thank you, Chair. It's a little bit of an update for something in my ward. There's been a few rumours knocking about, and I think I'll clear them up a little bit. And it's to do with All Saints Church in William. There's been rumours about a lot of changes going on in there and things happening there. Yes, it is true. There are going to be a lot of changes in All Saints. There is going to be a reconfiguration of the internal space in the church to make it more of a communal space and more, how shall I put it, flexible for the future. So what is going to happen is a lot of the interior of the church, most of the existing pews, a lot of the existing interior of the church is going to be removed and replaced with other bits and pieces. Now the church has got a big history of change. It started in Norman times, was added to in the 12th and 13th century, a bit more in the 15th, a bit more later on. And it has had things like the screen removed and reused in other parts of the church and that. So it's got a history of change and moving with the times. I don't think what the proposals are being universally welcomed locally, but the change is going ahead and it will happen very early in the new year. The first phases of that will start. Now, it's also, this is a little appeal in a way of asking for a bit of help and a bit of help with something as well. One of the things that they are going to remove from the church is the church organ, which goes back, was built in 1864 by Walkers of London, and it's been maintained over the years, well maintained, and it was a fairly major refurbishment done in 86 with money raised from the village and local people. Now they've been looking for another home for the organ and haven't been able to find one, so the proposal was it was going to be scrapped. I couldn't let that happen, so I've volunteered to remove the organ and find some storage for it and hopefully find a new site for it. I've been and done a survey on it. It's quite feasible. It's, as church organs go, small, which is to say it's quite big, but it's small as far as church organs go, and it is a compact unit. I've got volunteers from men in sheds to help me dismantle. What I'm a bit stuck on at the moment is, one is a new site, although I've got some suggestions which I'm working through the people involved, trying to find a new home for it, a permanent home for it. Failing that, I'm looking for a bit of storage in the meantime to keep it. I have got a couple of places, none of them ideal. What I'm looking for is somewhere dry and fairly clean I can use for anything up to 18 months, 2 years. And the space I need is about 2.5 meters by 2 meters by 2 meters when it's all taken apart. So if anybody can help me out, anybody knows where there's a back of a barn or a storage unit or something, or a back of a factory that's got a bit of space in there, I'd be most grateful. And if anybody else has got any suggestions for a nice new home for it, again, very helpful. I've been working with the vicar and some of the others in the village to do this, and any help would be appreciated. But I can't see something go with that much history. And the most beautiful thing about it is you go around the back of it, and it used to be pumped by the choir boys by hand, all it's electric now, and all across the back panels is the name of the choir boys over the last 100 and odd years who've pumped the organ, and other people and people who've been married there, and they're all etched, shall I say, or graffitied, as a different word, into the back panels of it. And that's something that's got to be seen, a little bit of social history. So that's my little appeal and a little bit of an update. Thank you. Thank you for your indulgence, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Levitt. No, not at all. That certainly counted as a ward update, even though it was definitely an unusual one.
Yep, different.
Oh, Claire. Yes, sorry, Claire. I didn't see your little blue hand.
Yeah, I just thought I'd chip in, Councillor Levitt. If we've still got money available for community facilities capital grants. If they're doing some sort of renovation to the church to make it accessible for the wider community to use as a community facility, they may be eligible to apply for up to £50,000 towards the work from the capital pot. So you might want to sort of field them in my direction if they'd be interested in that.
Yeah, thanks for that, Claire. I wasn't sure if religious places were entitled.
If it's open to the wider community, which it sounds like it's going to be,
yeah,
then that's exactly. We have done other churches where they're, are used for all sorts of things other than the religious services.
Thank you. Pass that on.
Councillor Rice.
While we're on about churches, I assume everybody's aware that St Michael's Church on the Broadway is to disappear. Having spoken to the authorities, the cost of repairing it is too great, so the decision has been made to remove it, which is rather sad because it is the main church in that area.
I understood that it's really remarkable architecture, but there were obviously some construction problems when it was actually built. The cost of solving the problems they've got there is too great. The church can't afford it. Yeah, that is a real shame. Yeah. It feels, sadly, from one sad point to we moving on to. Oh, sorry, Councillor Mantle. Sorry.
I just want to comment on Councillor Rice's point. That's such an important site in the town that I would like to think that when we start thinking about what's going to go there to replace the church, I presume the church will have to be demolished and removed, that we as a committee get involved in looking at what the options are, what the possibilities are, and make sure that it's something which is worthy of the site and is not just a sort of square block of flats.
Absolutely. I think, well, everybody nodded when you said that, Councillor Mantle. Also, obviously, it will be very much front and centre with any Heritage Foundation scheme of management architectural input as well. They certainly wouldn't want to see anything not in keeping with the character of the town, especially not there in that location. Hilary, I believe you need to give us an update on Remembrance Survey Sunday events in Letchworth.
I am going to give you an update. It's not going to be a very informative update because members probably know more than I do at this precise moment. So we've been doing our normal trawl around from the British Legion to get information about what they are doing for Remembrance Sunday. The national position is that local British Legions have been instructed is too strong a word, but advised not to undertake any parades or any services. So in general, where services are being held, and they're being held organised by other people. So for instance, in Hitchin, the St Mary's Church are organising it. And in Royston, I believe the town council is organising it rather than the Royal British Legion. In Letchworth, we've been told there is something going to happen, but nobody seems to know what it is yet. My colleague William is working his little socks off trying to get some information. What I will reassure you of is that even if nothing does end up happening, we are arranging for wreaths to be laid at all the normal places we lay wreaths, but we won't be doing that at the normal time because we want to prevent unorganised gatherings. So we would be organising for that to happen probably very early in the morning rather than at 11 o'clock as is traditional. And the other message I want to give is if we do find out that something is happening, please do not attend unless you've been invited or unless you've contacted the organisers, because the organisers are having to complete risk assessments and track and trace details for every service. So it's quite difficult for them. And these are all volunteers, of course, and quite often elderly volunteers doing this. So I would ask you not to just turn up. If anyone hears anything from anyone, please let us know, because what we will do is, as soon as possible, we'll get a note in MIS advising of everything that we do know and things we think we might know. Thank you. That's all I've really got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Hilary. That's really helpful. I just remember after the chair's briefing, I was thinking today that you were talking about how we would certainly organise delivery of wreaths, but at off-peak times. Yes. And I was wondering if you were going to be asking perhaps for volunteers who might be able to lay the wreath at an off-peak time that they would agree in advance, but perhaps in a smart coat, and have someone that's in their household accompany them and take an appropriate photograph to show that it was done, rather than something that would be a bit more like a postal delivery.
That's exactly right. If there is a service, that's the bit I forgot to mention, I do apologise. If there is a service, the vice chair of the council is going to be laying in Letchworth this year. The chair is going to lay in Hitchin, the vice chair in Letchworth. But yes, if nothing ends up happening, then yes, we will probably be putting a plea out to someone to do that on our behalf. Thank you.
Thanks, Hilary. That brings me to the end of the agenda, and I have had no notifications of any other business during the meeting. So unless anyone's got any questions for Hilary at this point, I'm going to be really quite excited to be calling and declaring the meeting closed before 10 o'clock when we had, what was that? Basically 10 items on the agenda. Is everyone content? Excellent, nodding faces. Okay, thank you very much. In that case, I'm going to say that it's a couple of minutes to 10 and the meeting is closed. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.